everyone. Welcome back to the podcast with NeuralRec. I'm Chris Coyne. Pleased to welcome Tetiana Torovets today, who is the head of search recommendations and personalization at QuintoAndar. Prior to that, you kind of worked your way up in the search space and worked for a company called ThredUp. And I think just speaking to you over the last couple of months, you're incredibly passionate about the personalization and search space. So welcome, Tetiana.
Thank you, Chris. I really enjoy being here today. I'm following your podcast for quite a while, and I have my few, especially nice episodes that I recommended to my team and to my friends.
Great. Well, yeah, I think I'm excited for this one. I said to you prior to starting the show today that we've had a couple of people on in a similar space now, and I'm quite keen to get your contrasting views on a few things. And just to let the people know at home listening, we're kind of going to go through an introduction to you, your experience in marketplace and recommendations, some kind of technical insights, and a few use cases. I think you're working on some exciting stuff at the moment, aren't you? And we'll talk through that, and just a bit of fun at the end, kind of future predictions and where you see the market going. So would you just like to, I guess, introduce your experience and how you've worked up as your way up as an IC all the way up to present day?
Of course. Let me know if I'm going too detail. I have quite a journey in data science. So my major is in applied mathematics, and I graduated from one of the best technical universities in Ukraine. And it was back in the time when there was no even data science as a term and industry, but we were studying modeling and analysis. And the start of my career was in banking, because at that moment, especially in Kyiv, it was a place to apply what you learned and try to do interesting things. And I'm one of these lucky people who do what they studied at the university, and what's even more important, enjoying doing so over there. Last, I don't know how many, I think 15 years. So after spending some times in banking, I had a nice segue to the consulting company, doing consulting in fintech industry really across the world. So we had clients in Australia, Canada, United States, United Kingdom. And what we were doing was making this automated decision system to process loan applications. So it was interesting period of 6 years when I was leading a large team working on multiple projects, developing machine learning models for the systems and measuring real impact for the business. And any questions, Chris?
Yeah, I think you've got a unique. I speak to a lot of people, not only from on the podcast, but recruitment in general. I think you've got quite a unique experience in the sense that you've worked in machine learning across fintech, e-com, and property tech. Do you notice any kind of differences in how different industries approach machine learning and ranking as well, and search and ranking? Is there any kind of key differences that you've seen?
Great question, Chris. I think the differences I see are more across product versus consultancy. I think in consultancy, the tendency is to reapply models that are well known and highly reliable. And back in time for fintech, it was even logistic regression, because it's super reliable, old-fashioned, but nice models.
Yeah.
And in product, you can go deeper, and you can go step by step, iterate and with your approach. Like if you are starting from the scratch, which is more rare now, but it happens, you can start with some simpler model, and you can increase complexity of algorithms when you understand the business better.
Yeah, understood. And yeah, you've kind of been drawn to the power of recommendations, I guess, since then. Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it earlier in the call. Like everybody was kind of a data scientist way back when, and we was all kind of doing these generalized roles, but everything's become much more specialized now. Yeah, what is it you like about the recommendations market to say some of the kind of language model projects going on at the moment, and yeah, why are you so passionate about that area?
Yes, I think something I learned in my experience is finding the niche that drives your personal interest is like a great addition to your data science journey because, for example, fintech was great place to start the career, but I never was really passionate about the problems we are solving. And with searching recommendations, I really can like spend all weekend with having this thought on the back of my mind. Oh, so we changed rank in this way. Like, what people are really doing? What happened to them?
Mm.
And it's something that makes a difference by the end of the day. You can have a high technical proficiency, but if you are really passionate about the problem and domain, it will be boosting your career.
Yeah, I think machine learning is one of those industries from certainly from a recruitment perspective. It's so complex that you've got to be passionate about what you're doing because there's so much to take in, and the market's continuing to evolve. So if you're not passionate, you kind of won't stay up to date, I guess. But specifically, marketplaces is something I'm really interested to chat to you about today. I think got quite unique experience in marketplaces, and I think recommender systems in general is so vital to those platforms. Um, yeah, just talk us through kind of your work at ThredUp and what you've been doing there, and some of the unique challenges that you would face working on recommender systems to marketplaces.
Right. ThredUp is a marketplace that sells secondhand fashion apparel, and uh, its uniqueness and is that every item listed on the site is unique. Sorry
Mhm.
for being repetitive. So it creates a lot of interesting challenges that other marketplaces don't have because if you think about streaming services, the supply is endless. You people can listen to the same song as many times as they want and or watch the same movie as many times as they want. And it's actually similar at QuintoAndar, property tech company I am working at now. Every house or apartment is unique. You cannot sell it
Nice.
twice to the same
Yeah.
person or rent it twice. And it place this marketplace in this interesting niche because this it creates supply restrictions and if fairness for streaming services and some other marketplaces is more the concept to explore and something very nice to have and beneficial as we know now. For this type of marketplaces with limited and unique supply, it's a critical business problem, and being able
Mm.
to distribute and demand is essential, like to keep suppliers more engaged and happy, and to keep users happy because users will be competing for the same items, and by the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's not always healthy.
Mm. And what would you say is the kind of key to balancing those constraints of supply versus the needs of the user? Yeah, how would you actually do that?
Yes, I would focus more on property tech, and we can get
Mm.
back to
Mm.
fashion apparel if That's something interesting. So if you think about properties, if you think about ranking search personalization from user perspective, and this is very common way of looking to this domain, you would be in this trap when there are the same nice house in nice location with nice deal and price will be perfect for hundreds of people. And really, if you look like, oh, I'm optimizing my system based on all user past behavior and what I know about this geolocation, what I know about people, this is the best I should do for user. But what happens in reality? You send this hundreds of users to the same place. They cannot grant it. They're trying, wasting time. And from supply perspective, the landlord would be annoyed and overwhelmed by this obsolete demands they cannot deal with. And what happened after that, the other landlords who get a little bit less attention would be unhappy because they cannot rent or sell their place. And all this create this great, very interesting equilibrium, which is quite unique for property tech, because property tech is more supply constrained than some other industries.
Mm. And what specifically to property tech and recommendations, what would you say are the kind of models that you're using from a kind of machine learning perspective?
Yes. We are now, I would say now we are using a more classical model,
Yeah.
actually ensemble trees, but we were working a lot with the features, and where we focused on was building a system of this model that combines into the ways that allows us to solve this problem and allow better balance. But from pure algorithmical perspective, it will change. So of course, we want to leverage more complex algorithms, more
Yeah.
neural networks, and add more data.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm working with a couple of marketplaces at the moment, and it's kind of that balance between classical machine learning and everybody getting excited about these latest and greatest neural networks that are being implemented. So, no, it's super interesting. And moving back to kind of ThredUp and some of the price is super important on marketplaces, and you've kind of already touched on it. There's so many unique items that you're dealing with. How do you kind of approach these pricing challenges, and what have kind of been the insights and lessons learned for you?
Sure. So you can imagine having a million of items on marketplace, and what is unique for the business model. If you operate with commission business model, like you get commission from an item you sell, pricing becomes slightly different concept. Like you are optimizing this price over time, but and you have like some business constraint, like I shouldn't sell this item below some X dollars I spent like on operations. But other than that, it's like not hard limited problem. And usually you need to optimize like, I want to sell this item over X number of days. And what is the highest price I can try to charge? And since you have millions and millions of items, your customers kind of gave you that answer already. If you know how to look into the system, you would know what is the optimal price. And here is come machine learning part. Every item is unique. Like even items from the same brand, same size, same collection could be in different quality state. How do you know what items are similar? And the simplest and still correct answer is, oh, you take like brands and size and I don't know, colors. And that would be correct for some portion of items. But the big marketplace, first of all, would have a long tail of small brands, like dozens, thousands of small brands. So brands will work, but not always. So how do you know what is similar? And I think what was the game changer when we were working on pricing system was actually thinking how users find the deals, how users explore the marketplace. And in case fashion apparel, important to use image data because like this is what decides like do you like this dress, you need to look at it.
Yeah.
So visual information was critical, and we combined this like visual information, brand information, basically to find from the history like how similar items were selling. I'm terribly oversimplifying because we were using a lot more inputs and highlighting brands and images specifically because it was like kind of core features. And of course, we have a lot of metadata to add. I can add a little bit more if time allowed to that.
Yeah, please do. And to add to close off on the marketplace part of the show, I'd be keen to understand what kind of key metrics you're looking at in terms of measuring success and what your approach was there.
Oh, I love the metric and success measurement question a lot. At ThredUp, we were linking our A/B test to revenue metrics. So by then, today, we were measuring how much more profit and revenue also, but actual profit we're getting from each item listed on the marketplace. And I love technical challenges, but I like when technical challenges are given a high ROI for the business and very pragmatic. So I think ability to link your performance to financial metrics and P&L is like the easiest way to give the good answer.
Yeah, the experimentation question and metrics is one I always like to ask, and the best answers always seem to be the simplest ones. I think surely it doesn't get any simpler than tying it to revenue and ROI.
It's not simple to do that, but once you do that, it gives you a lot of levers, especially in communicating to stakeholders. You can think about more classical approach, like showing conversion rate is very standard and nice metric for marketplaces. But if you are coming to your senior stakeholder and saying, this system gave us a couple of millions dollars already, it's a powerful approach to have.
Understood. Okay, well, moving on to more your technical insights, and really don't be afraid to get technical when you're talking through some of this. I think multi-objective models are something that are always popular, and lots of companies and engineers working on it. Could you talk us through a recent project around multi-objective ranking models and some of your key takeaways there?
Sure. As I mentioned before, we are at the moment build more system of models, whereas the first candidate generations step and heavier ranker step are optimizing like search to lead users from search to offer in case of properties. And then we add another re-ranking, optimizing the likelihood that user will sign the contract for this property. It could be sale, renting contract. So, but this is more like solving this, not like from system perspective. And we are planning to switch to what is so popular is multi-objective model, neural net model that will actually take into account all these goals.
Yeah, cool. And what was it, that kind of made you want to make the switch to those models?
Because I think the first goal was to explore a little bit if the idea of solving this marketplace balance problem this way will work. We now know it works. It helps like to redistribute demand by ranking. And now that we know that, we're ready to invest in complexity of the model and actually use neural networks that will be capable of using more data. And actually, I was mentioning how leveraging data that is important to users was helpful at ThredUp. And in the same way, we want to leverage more image data, geolocation data, more rich text data, and having more complex neural networks is the way for me to use the data.
Cool. Okay. And specifically for cold start problems, just with the types of marketplaces that you're dealing with, do you want to just talk us through kind of those type of problems that you're facing? And yeah.
Of course. I wouldn't speak too much about property tech yet, but I would mention that we're like thinking about mostly user problems, but house problems as well. And for user problems, we really want to leverage an approach like if you have, let's say, two towers embedding model that you are using for candidate generation, your recommendations and ranking as well. You can do something like averaging your embeddings for geolocation to give the best suggestion for customers searching in certain neighborhood or city, like dependent on your scale. I can talk a little bit how it worked before it's ThredUp for cold start. Again, it was more user cold start problem than item cold start problem. And it was interesting because for users, it was almost like different optimization problems because for new users, your goal is to keep them engaged and trust that your marketplace has what they need. They need to see something really nice, and then they will start exploring, and we will learn what they need. So cold start was solved by popularity a lot. So we were creating not simple, but more complex popularity recommendations for users. And it was a big success for new users. And for existing users, of course, we can like take what we already know from the first session and do a better personalization. For item cold start problem, I think, again, it was less a problem for ThredUp because many users naturally would look for newest arrivals. And I think it's like thrifting mindset of customers. If people go to thrift stores, they like to go to new arrivals. It was transferred to online thrifting as well. And I think for property tech, we will be focusing on solving this with recommendations, like because like showing new houses with certain features and telling people, look, you were looking for this. This is what just arrived. I will be happy to talk later when I know the solution and share.
In terms of, I think one thing that shines through whenever we chat, Tetiana, is just your experience on large scale recommendation projects. And something I'm always keen to ask any leader is kind of bridging that gap between your technical expertise and then getting buy-in from maybe non-technical stakeholders at large enterprises where, particularly with recommender systems, the cost of getting a recommendation engine off the ground can be quite high, I've heard. So, how do you manage that against any immediate ROI getting buy-in with stakeholders?
Yes, I think it's a really great question. And actually, I was lucky and proud to present one of our recent projects at Haystack conference in Berlin. And this was exactly the questions that people were asking me from the audience. We were showing our AI search assistant, and people were asking, how did you convince your leadership to invest into developing this? I cannot say I have like a silver bullet to this question, but if I were given advice to myself a couple of years ago, I would set up these expectations that everything related to ranking and recommendations takes time to see the benefit. So what is critical is building a reliable reliable measurement system. For example, building a long-term holdout group of people and observing not the impact not over 1 or 2 months, not even 3 months sometimes, but actually waiting for 6 or 7 months. If you can afford sending a small portion of traffic to this holdout, you would see how this benefit from better ranking recommendations accumulates over the time. And again, as I mentioned before, by the end of the year, it will be very easy story to say, we made this investment, here is the result. But I acknowledge that your question is how to convince people to start going this process. And I think, again, like explaining how we measure success helps. Of course, like having technically savvy stakeholders, or at least curious stakeholders who understand the value behind the hypes helps. So yeah, I don't have a perfect answer, but I think measurement and clear roadmap usually is the secret sauce.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, I guess clear roadmap makes total sense. I think you kind of touched on it at the metrics earlier in the show about delivering clear ROI, but maybe what would be the steps before that you could show someone how you would what would you measure before money, basically?
Of course, metrics related to user funnels. So if you are working in this domain of search ranking and personalization, you're first of all making immediate impact on how users navigate your marketplace and how they move towards making a purchase. So usually you have a funnel of events closely linked with each other. So you measure the impact on this funnel. So people start doing searches, exploring something, showing stronger intent, like adding something to favorites, adding something to cart. In case of property tax, scheduling visit, making an offer. And your ultimate goal is making a purchase and retention. Retention is important even in this slow life cycle like property tech, because ideally you want your users who rent places to make another contract with you. So you're building this measurement system showing like how users interact with your system. This is like first step. If you don't understand this, it's hard to move forward. Then you must add reliable A/B testing framework on top of it. I can talk a lot about A/B testing. I'm actually have a lot of lessons learned in this area. And yeah, then you can start thinking how to translate what you're doing to more monetary ROI.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, let's chat about A/B experimentation, if that's okay with you. I've recently just had a good conversation with someone about that. It's what would you say are the keys to a good experimentation pipeline, and so some of the lessons you've learned? Because from my experience chatting to people, it can be so easy to measure the wrong metrics and give a false sense of success. Um, what would what have your lessons been learned?
Uh, I have a slightly different lessons learned in this area. And I can start with the story. I joined the company with intention to focus on like using more data sources, advancing our technical stack and model. But one of the first areas where I saw success and real impact was helping to evolve A/B testing framework, and it was very essential. It was not like something was dramatically bad, but there were some loops and some holes to fix
Mm,
and see better impact actually of from testing. So I think, how do you track your data and how do you process your data across platforms? Do you account well for user contamination? Very simple things, yet essential to fix before you go to the route of fancy experimentation.
mm,
This is like one factor thing. And another is like metrics. You were stepped in with, you were talking about metrics. And like, maybe it's oversimplifying the problem, but by the end of the day, your goal is like to make users to spend money with your marketplace. And if you're measuring something like contracts, purchases, it's hard to be wrong if your ultimate business metrics is focused there. But then your problem is
mm,
usually that if you think about the whole funnel, this metric is small and it takes very long to measure. So the next nice problem to have is selecting a proxy metric. If you have a right proxy
mm,
metric, you can create this virtuous cycle of experimentations and checking many, many things in reliable way. So this is actually another critical moment to have. And last but not least is your experimentation tool. And there are tons of third parties proposing like to automate this for you. And
mm,
the story I am seeing over and over in my practice, and also when I'm talking to some of my peers, is a company that want really to control what they're measuring will end up developing internal A/B testing tool with full control, all ins and out. Um, I would be very happy to learn about different stories when if there are cool third-party tools that you can just rely on and relax. I would want to talk to them. So far, it comes to the fact that all third-party tools do not give you enough transparency into understanding what is going on with your experiment. And as soon as you got a decent team of data scientists understanding what they're doing, you
mm.
will come back to this internal development question.
I understand. Yeah. So to summarize, you're saying getting the basics right, measuring the right things, obviously, but most importantly, and I'm sorry if you're a SaaS vendor listening to this, but developing your own internal tools has been really helpful for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, I'm going a little bit off piece here, but in terms of your recommendations and search and model bias, I guess that can filter in with some of the models that you're developing. Is that something that you've got experience with and would be happy to talk about some of your approach there?
Sure. Like, um, there is different mindset. Like some people think that search is subset of recommendations, and some people think that recommendations are subset of search. And I will get to the model from here. I'm closer to the scale of thinking that recommendations is subset of search, and I really think this is the same part of the same problem. And that's why I really like models, like embedding models that enable to be to optimize search and recommendations. And that said, like at the current moment, using two towers model that allow connecting users with items and always selecting the best subset of items, yet leveraging a lot of data, neural networks is something super useful. Using embeddings, like in general, to capture user information and develop hybrid search is also another technique that I think is must have, and I think like revolutionizing personalization and search simultaneously. And of course, we're coming to LLMs. I was intentionally a little bit delaying this, but not because I don't like LLMs. It's the opposite. I just think there is a difference between the hype itself, the ways we should and can use LLMs now, and the future. And the hype is, of course, like LLMs can do everything. They cannot, but they can do a lot of things. And I think, like, in the moment, using LLMs to process plain text and create like inputs for your system is very efficient way to take advantage of technology, especially if you have a lot of free-form text describe like coming from your users. But I think this like very in the moment state, and in the future we're going towards using LLMs to replace recommendation system, not only LLMs but Gen AI model. And I think on the RecSys conference, senior director from Google was saying that like we are moving to the future when like LLMs will take over recommendation space.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it to be there, but we need to acknowledge this trajectory and think, what do we do with it? And I really
Super interesting.
I really like this
Go ahead.
idea that now is evolving, that Gen AI model will be able actually not to pick up from existing content what is best for the user, but really generate what is best for the user. And then you can check, oh, do I have it into my supply? Or like in some cases, I can make it in my supply. Like if we're talking about classical clothing industry, like if your model is telling you what users need, you can actually order this and like supply it to the marketplace, right? But not all marketplaces can do that. It's just talking about direction.
Yeah, so it's super interesting. I know we went a little bit off topic there, so thanks for sharing that. I know something that seems super exciting that you're working on at the moment, search assistants, and using the user experience, improving the user experience in property tech. Do you want to just talk us through some of the search work you're doing and specifically the search assistant that you're developing and see is really interesting?
Of course. So if you are interested to check, we have a nice presentation about that available at Europe Haystack. But what did we do? We combined um, two things into a search assistant. First, we created LLM-powered chatbots to talk with a user in a plain language and extract filters from the conversation to run the search and like keep talking to users and evolve the search. And second part, what is in this AI search assistant is leveraging visual language models and searching through images. So combination of these two gives us like new way, a new type of search assistant that many companies are now trying to experiment with, like this way of conversational search or some other conversational search. And it was like a big step and big investment for the company because the how search was working at QuintoAndar is through filters. We didn't have a free text search because I think if you think about Zillow or Airbnb or Booking or other property tech companies, they usually don't have free text search, maybe only free text search for location. I'm trying to say it's pretty standard for industry to rely only on filters. And we are like moving to a whole different paradigm when you can talk to the system in a plain language and it will find what you need. And I can would it be interesting to explain why this way and what is like the motivation behind it?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So I think there is a huge gap between how you usually search for rent or to buy a house if you are dealing with a good agent versus how all system works. Like if you are dealing to the good agent, you will come to them and say, I have two kids and husband and two cats, and I'm looking for a nice neighborhood with good schools to move. This is my budget. What can I afford? What would you recommend? And like, again, if you're having a good agent, real estate agent, you will get some decent advices. They will keep in mind your context. They will be flexible to go maybe 5% over your budget to give you better recommendations. They will know the neighborhood. They can suggest you a couple of things. And this is dramatically different from how all the search sites work, because then you need, if when you're going to the search, to the site of property tech, you are now thinking yourself, what neighborhood do I need? In many cases, you will be Googling, or actually using ChatGPT to ask who's the good neighborhoods, right?
Yes.
You will be like going through like list of, I don't know, 70 filters to add all things you may or may not need. And 70 is arbitrary number, but it is possible. So the ambition is actually to close this gap and like to try to get this information that users will give to the good agent and solve these problems of understanding context, given some meaningful recommendations. So I cannot say we're already 100% there, but this is like a pathway we are moving towards.
Yeah, super interesting. I guess a bit of a curveball, but do you think it could replace maybe a realtor, I guess, at some point where people are preferring AI-powered assistants to find their next property?
I think this is the future, actually.
Yeah.
For property tech, I think we're talking about the effects that LLMs and AI will cause to society and what jobs will be taken over by AI. And I think realtors is actually one of these jobs.
Yeah, understood. I think we're in a period where it's adaptation, I guess, and Do you? One question I've got in terms of people like maybe the buying experience of using, say, a realtor. Do you notice any kind of laziness in terms of wanting to use a conversational AI system? And yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Of course, of course. Of course, users are lazy. I can tell just looking into how product works. And there are, I think there is a very reasonable explanation why. So again, if I'm going to this example, when you're talking to the good realtor, you would talk to them. You would explain like, oh, like this is my context, this is my family, this is what I want. And you probably will not text them to say, I don't know, 2-bedroom apartment, London, and that's it.
Mm.
You probably will speak more. And I did, users need a reason to talk more. Like right now, they are treating this AI assistant as fancy search system. So they are not always investing a lot of effort to give it more context because they think this is like fancy search box.
Mhm.
First of all, if we see the magic
Yeah.
and like magic of AI, they will have a reason to talk more when they understand how AI is helpful to them. But I think, like from product development perspective, there are always other ways to deal with that. And one simple way is actually using voice features. We are again at the stage when voice models are advanced, have low latency, and it's actually very easy to capture what users are saying highly accurately. And this is like an advantage. Maybe you're lazy to type, but you're not lazy to speak for
Yeah.
a couple of minutes when you are even driving, I don't know, dealing with kids, things like.
Yeah.
And actually, our product has AI feature. We will be investing in actually educating users to use that. And another is like onboarding, dealing with this paralysis of empty page when you don't know what to write. So we are given like onboarding suggestion.
Mm.
You can look for
Yeah.
CV with us.
It's super interesting. I've just gone through the process of getting a new house, and I can see this is a super interesting use case, particularly the voice of being able to take this out with you and maybe querying it in real time on the area and getting really detailed insights. I think it would be invaluable to a lot of people, especially I couldn't speak for Portugal, but in the UK, it's in a bit of a bubble at the moment. It'd be super helpful to have something like this. So interesting. And tying this into kind of future predictions and where you see the market going in property tech, do you see it becoming kind of more AI led and more reliance on technology in general?
Yes, absolutely. I can see this movement in all big players like Zillow is investing a lot in AI. Um, I will be bad with the name at the moment, but we are following a couple of UK-based startups actually introducing this AI search assistants, and same for US. So this is definitely the trend, and I see different approaches to tackle this. I saw simple ropers again around OpenAI, so it's like when people add to their site ability to ask very general questions about neighborhoods and attempts to do something more complicated. And of course, Airbnb is one of the leaders that we are monitoring. And of course, we went to LLM discussions and how LLMs are used, but ultimate personalization is something that is happening on the background. How to leverage even more data, how to leverage all this text data. For example, if users will go to talking to some agents who support how we leverage that data, because it's very important. Image data and geolocation data. I can talk a little bit about that. I don't know how we're doing in terms of time.
No, please go ahead. I think the geolocation aspects, I think it's super interesting how just being in a different location will affect the platform. So yeah, please talk us through that.
Now, something I actually want to talk about different aspect of it. I cannot come with a good example in UK. Maybe you can help me, but
Okay.
there are cities with relatively simple landscape, like the round shaped cities, and in these cities usually using the distance is like a good proxy to recommend users the good locations. Like you are searching some specific small neighborhood, you can just extend the search and you will be recommending probably still relevant location. But there are cities with complex landscape. Lisbon in Portugal, San Francisco, Rio de Janeiro are cities with this very non-linear landscape and coastal cities. And what happens in these cities, if you look into one neighborhood and like not finding a lot of good results there, your next best choice could be not the closest choice. It could be like another city on the sea coast, which not city, another neighborhood on the sea coast, which could be like 10 kilometers from where you are looking now, but much more similar to your initial search than like a neighborhood 1 kilometer, but down like more distant from the sea. I'm like trying to explain this, and if you look into the search history, your users already know that. Like, so if you can leverage this data, like what people are using, searching together, and leverage it into educated way, again, using embeddings. Embeddings are everywhere now. So I think you can go with the much more nuanced recommendations and nuanced search extensions.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And in terms of, everybody's super focused in on LLMs and Gen AI at the minute, but zooming in, and you kind of touched on it there about this move towards hyper personalization. In terms of future prediction, do you see anything else kind of coming into the market and playing a role in that kind of hyper personalization journey, or is it, should we be looking at and continue to look at, how we can use things like LLMs and recommendations to personalize the journey?
I would say not LLMs per se, but Gen AI models, which includes multimodal models combining different modalities into the same space. And I think this is like the main trend, but we will continue to use deep learning, which is kind of not new for a long time, right? But we'll continue to use it for some time to leverage more data as top deep learning models decreases. It's easier, like actually to capture more data, and I think this is like the again like current benefit.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've certainly seen in terms of, last year was kind of everyone was focused on LLMs, and now it's kind of the multimodality side of things, but also a couple of marketplaces I've seen really pushing deep learning into their engines, and I think so. It's super interesting that you've said that. Cool. I think the next part, I guess, is more your experience and learnings. I think it's in certain pockets of Europe, in London, it can be a tough market, especially for junior people at the minute. It's quite competitive to get a machine learning role. I provide people advice, etc. But keen to get your thoughts on what specifically you look at when hiring a ML engineer, and then how that made it differ to a scientist. So I think at the start you kind of touched on passion and why that's important, but specifically for those roles, what is it you actually look at?
Sure. This is a great question, Chris. Um, I like this unicorn combination of people who are highly technical, yet pragmatic about applying ML to solve the business problems. And I know it sounds like, oh, this is too hard, but this is where I'm trying to balance around. I really appreciate people from academia, and I think we will be we will not move forward without academia research.
Mm,
But for smaller companies, it is critical to find this balance of research mindset with ability to deliver real world UCs and solutions. So this is
mm,
my ideal mindset, and of course, depending on the roles, I can change their requirements to technical. Uh,
mm.
right.
Yeah, so I guess you're saying kind of the theoretical side, solid foundations, and but being able to take that theory and solve a real problem with
Yes.
it, rather than I guess one drawback of I hear from some PhDs is that the too focused on the academia side. So no, thanks for sharing that. And in terms of your leadership style, I think you've worked your way up at ThredUp, for example, and so it's impressive. Not many people will work their way up in one particular company. What has been your leadership style, and how you create a culture? What's your process there?
Uh, yes, I was reflecting a little bit on my latest experience before our conversation. I think my goal is creating a safe space for my team, like protecting them from
Mm,
uh, undesired pushes, and allowing them to be creative and explore things, uh,
mm,
like explore things, experiment with technologies, and find these best solutions for business. But taking away the push and pressure coming from stakeholders is something I'm trying to do.
yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, I think that just about covers everything. Thanks so much for sharing your journey and some of the technical projects you've been working on. I'll share the link to the search assistant as well that you shared at Haystack. That'll be on the podcast if anyone wants to check it out in the bio. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chris. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for the invitation.